Hi guys, welcome to my first YouTube video, and we are going to be getting straight into it. But I just wanted to say, first of all, I'm going to be taking my makeup off during this because I do feel a wee bit awkward if I'm just sitting doing nothing. I went to record earlier and I accidentally had a problem with the microphone, so this is me re-recording, and I think it would just be a bit better for myself if I'm doing something while I'm telling you guys the case. So I'm going to be removing my makeup. So today we are getting into the case. It's a murder case of Ross Parker. So let's get right into it. Ross Andrew Parker was born on the 17th of August 1984, and at the time of his murder he was 17 years old. So Ross was one of two children to Davina and Tony Parker, and he had a sister called Leanne. He had a girlfriend at the time of his murder as well, called Nicola. So Ross was described by his family as being full of energy. He was the life and soul of the party, and he lit up any room as he walked in. He loved life, and he loved to do things his own way. Ross enjoyed playing football, and he played with a team that was local to him called Netherton United Football Club. And he loved watching football as well, and him and his dad really bonded over that. I'm pretty sure that they supported the same team. So Ross and Nicola, they both worked in a local pub called Solstice, and that's where they were the night that Ross was attacked. So Ross was gaining a qualification in business studies, but ideally he wanted to pursue a career in the police force, and he planned on doing that when he turned 18. So Friday the 21st of September 2001, Ross and Nicola finish up at work at about 1 a.m, but standard time for a pub closing. So they finish up at about 1 in the morning, and they decide that they are going to go to Nicola's friend's house because she's having a get together, like a house party. And they decide, okay, we're going to go there and they're going to walk. So they set off, leave their work, set off, and then they come down cycle path, and this cycle path is alongside Borges Boulevard. And while they're going down this cycle path, they find themselves being like approached by a group of about 10 men. Some of them are wearing balaclavas, and it looks like they've got weapons in their hands, but it's dark, so I mean it is early hours of the morning, and like not starting to get light yet, it's still dark. One of the men turns to Ross and he says, "You better start running." But as soon as he says this, they surround Ross, and there is nowhere that he can run because he's surrounded by people. So then one of the men sprays Ross in the face with tear gas. So now Ross is surrounded and he can't see. And after that, while he's getting sprayed in the face with tear gas, another man punches him in the stomach. And then someone comes up behind him for this group of men and stabs him 3 times in the neck and the chest. And Ross obviously starts bleeding profusely. Now, this knife that they used to attack Ross was a large hunting knife. It was a foot long, and this attack was so brutal that the knife actually completely went through Ross's body 2 out of the 3 times that he was stabbed. So, while this has just happened, Ross falls to the ground. You need to remember he's going to be heavily bleeding now. Can't see. He's injured. He's been getting hit in the stomach as well as just being stabbed, and falls to the ground. And these men then continue to attack Ross by kicking him, and another man starts hitting Ross over the head with a hammer. So you're probably wondering by this point what had happened to Nicola. Well, she managed to get away and she ran up the road to a local petrol station where she managed to get a hold of someone's phone so that she could call the police. Remember, in 2001, it's not like today where everybody's got their phones on them all the time, so that's why she had to run and get help. So she was on the phone to the operator and she could hear Ross screaming out in pain. I believe it was twice that she heard him screaming out in pain. And then, just by chance, she saw a police car driving past, so she flagged it down and she told the police what happened, and they went to the scene. Now, by this point, it had been about 5 minutes since Nicola had left Ross, but by the time that Nicola and the police arrived to the scene, the gang of men were gone and Ross had died from his injuries. Died there alone. How sad is that? Just because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. So Saturday, the 22nd of September, police launch a murder investigation, and they're quite nervous. They're worried that nobody's going to come forward because this was such a large group of individuals. And I mean, I kind of understand that because they're not going to, like, their friends aren't going to rat them out, are they? And they're not going to be, like, telling on each other. They're not going to be like, oh, I was there. And then, given the fact that these are clearly dangerous individuals who have already killed somebody, if someone was to come forward and then they found out who came forward, of course they're going to be terrified that something's going to happen to them next. So the local community raised £1,000 and hope that it would entice people to come forward. So the £1,000 was for any information that led to an arrest. So in the days that followed, the police received lots of anonymous tips, and this led to the arrest of 12 British Pakistani men. Now, right from the get-go, police could tell that there was some sort of relation between these men. The men who were taken to the police stations and stuff like that, they all graffitied and vandalised. They all vandalised the inside of the police vans. Now, I don't know how bad it was. I couldn't find any pictures. But apparently they all vandalised inside of the vans, and that's just a bit weird to me because why would you do that? But not only that, not only did they all vandalise inside of these police vans, they also kept all saying the same thing. So there was this phrase that they kept saying all the time, and it was Taliban Osama bin Laden. Now, when I say they said this all the time, I mean they said it when they were together, like in the vans, they said it when they were in their cells, they said it when they were by themselves, they said it during their questioning by the police, so they were just saying it to police officers. And it was, police were just kind of like, what the heck? So, 5 days after Ross Parker was murdered, 4 men were arrested and charged. Now, these 4 men were Safraz Ali, and he was 25 years old and he was married, but we should note that his wife did actually leave him when the trial started, which leaves some people to think that maybe she knew more than she let on. We had Ahmed Awan, he was 22, and word is he thought it was a bit of a big shot and like some sort of cool gangster, and that he actually had quite an interest in knives. Shahid Nazir, he was 22 as well, and he had a son, and he worked in a local takeaway. And the youngest was Saraf Murad, who was 21, and he also worked in the same local takeaway. So, audio of these men was used in court, from police vans. Now, when these men were being taken like in the police vans to and from police stations and stuff, they were actually talking in the back of the van in a different language. Now, I don't know if they thought that if they knew that there was going to be like audio able to be taken from the vans, or if they just thought if they speak in a different language, the police officers that are in the van with them won't understand what they're saying. But police got a translator and they were able to hear what the men were talking about. So, in this audio, police could hear Shahid saying that Ross's murder was like a bloodbath. And a few of the men were also talking about how they had like just lied about their statements, they made them up, and they were laughing about how gullible the police were, which clearly they weren't that gullible because they got a translator in and they thought smart to be like, actually, let's check what these guys are talking about. So, weren't they really that gullible, were they? A cellmate of Ahmed actually came forward as well and said that during the time that he had spent with him, Ahmed had discussed how he hated white people, and that night him and the other men went out to shed some white people's blood. The reason that they felt this way was basically they said it was because the way like so Ross's attack happened like 10 days after 9/11, and there was a lot of white people especially being really horrible to the Asian community because for some reason people couldn't separate normal people with terrorists. There was no separation back then. It was all in the aftermath of 9/11. People were like, oh, everybody who looks a certain way is a terrorist, which obviously is not true. But these men felt, I think, that the only way that they could, if they felt like it was the only option to go out and attack a white person back for how horrible they had been treated, which obviously is not alright, and it's not alright the way people were treating other people. But I mean, at the end of the day, Ross lost his life over this. Do you know what I mean? Um. So, they said that, and that they wanted to shed some white people's blood, and he also discussed his involvement to cellmate in the murder, and like the process of after it, like how they were cleaning up and stuff, and how they had planned it. So when police searched their homes, they couldn't find anything except for in Shahid's home, where in the shed they found all the murder weapons, and they found multiple plastic bags with bloody clothes in them. So I think it was bin bags. They found multiple of them with clothes with blood in them. But as it turns out, there was actually more clothes than were needed for just the 4 men who had been arrested. So that kind of leaves you to think there must have been more people involved. Well, if you think back, that it was about 10 men that was reported to have crowded them, but only 4 men were arrested. So, I don't know too much about that, but it seems like there was more people involved than just 4 men. So they found the clothes, they found the murder weapons. They also found blood in a shoe, okay? Which, how does blood get in a shoe? Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's theorised that the person who ever was wearing this shoe was kicking Ross so viciously, and that Ross was bleeding so much that the blood actually soaked through this person's shoe and was inside the shoe. It was also on a sock, but that is just absolutely wild, isn't it? Like, it's my mind. The fingerprints and DNA that were found on the hunting knife matched Saeed, and they also found that Ross's blood was on the murder weapons. Now, these murder weapons had been washed very poorly, albeit, but thank goodness that they were poorly washed because then they had the evidence that they needed. Panel beater's hammer that was used, and the marks were consistent with the injuries on Ross's head. So Saeed's younger brother Wyatt actually came forward and he gave evidence that he seen his brother and his friends the night of the murder in his kitchen, and he seen his brother washing the murder weapons in the sink of their kitchen, and they were all covered in blood. All four men were covered in blood, which must have just been so scary to like see your brother and like, his friends like that in your kitchen. Do you know what I mean? So Ahmed, Shahid, and Zaraf all admitted to taking part in Ross's attack, but they said that they didn't kill him. They said they took part by like kicking him, spraying him with tear gas, and that they also admitted to washing the evidence after. But they said that only Safraz used the weapons. But Safraz, he had different ideas. He was like, well, I was at home that night sleeping. I wasn't even out with these men on that day. But remember, the police had the audio from the vans, so they knew that he had said that was going to be his alibi, and that they were to just go along with what he was saying. So they knew that it was lies. So, December 19th, 2002. Safraz Ali, Shahid Zahir, Ahmed Awan were all sentenced to life in prison. Safraz and Shahid were sentenced to 16 years minimum, and Ahmad Awan was sentenced to 18 years minimum. But the weirdest thing is that Zaraf Murad served no jail time. None. Just let that sink in. A man who admitted to being there and admitted taking part in the attack of kicking potentially the guy who sprayed him in the face with the tear gas, said he was there, said he took part, said that he also helped clean the murder weapons. No jail time, which is just absolutely crazy to me. You should get done for something, surely. Even if it's just assault, anything, but no jail time at all. It's very strange to me. So, the area where Ross was murdered was constantly vandalised, with things like no-go area for whites, death to all whites, which is just, to me, like a kick in the family's face, right? I mean, they've already lost their son, but now this area is like being tainted all the time by, look, no whites here. Do you know what I mean? It's really sad. The family received a letter from Ahmed Ahwan in 2018 admitting that he carried out the attack on Ross Parker and that he wanted forgiveness. But understandably, that is not something that the family can do because, I mean, they'll never get Ross back, and I can't even imagine how hard that would be to give somebody for that. Like, brutally murdering your child and just leaving him there to die alone. You know what I mean? Can't imagine how the parents feel losing their child like that. But that is all for today. If you like this video, give me a wee thumbs up, comment what you think. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this case, and if there's any cases that you would like to see me cover, then please feel free to let me know. But that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Bye!